Okay, let me let everyone in. Hold on. Okay, Jim.
All right, great. Welcome to the June 15th, 2021 meeting of the Milford Planning and Zoning Board. Meg, we'll do the pledge and a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the
Allegiance to the
flag
flag
of the
United States of America,
America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Meg, if you would please call the roll.
Okay, Miss Austin,
Present.
Mr. Castagnoli,
Here.
Mr. Cater,
Present.
Mr. Collegian,
Present.
Miss Kearney,
Present.
Mr. Moore.
He's
Present.
here.
Right. Mr. Mortimer.
Present.
I didn't see Mr. Sadi. Mr. Zaharides
Present.
and Chairman Quish.
Present. Yes,
Thank
Mr. Sadi will be unable to attend.
Okay, thank you.
So our first order of business is a public hearing closed by August 19th, 2021. Vote by September 23, 2021. 140 Clark Street, Zone R10, petition of Kevin Cresadian Esquire for a change of zone from R10 residential to CDD1 on map 53, block 331, parcel 11, of which Wallbanger Enterprises LLC is the owner. Do we have the applicant?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Kevin Crusaden, my office is at 3 Lafayette Street here in Milford. I'm representing the owner and applicant, Wallbanger Enterprises. Also, I see who's on the call is Dr. Harvey Armel, the member of that LLC and who has an office in that building and has practiced there in the past. This application for a zone change is brought because when the building was constructed in 1988, architect Ray Oliver at that time and the previous owners, Dr. Huzar, the property was R12.5. And in order to construct the building, they needed a zone change. They obtained that zone change in 1988, and that zone change was to residential office. And then the building was constructed and it was fully compliant with the zoning regs of the RO district, that there was no variances given for it or anything like that. And then at some point in time, this property, the zone was changed from RO to R10. And I don't know if it was at the time that the CDD1 zone was implemented, because along Route 1 there was, which this property is a couple of properties up from Route 1. Along Route 1, there was, I think it was RO, a mix of RO and business general office or something along those lines when I'm looking at the old zoning maps. So now we have a building that the use, if there's, can't be expanded, but it's also a non-conforming use for the zone. And so the reason for the application is twofold. Number one, it's to bring the property back into a commercial zone. There, at the time that it was changed to RO, there was other RO districts in the vicinity across the street, and it kind of hugged across the street where Gusto's is, down the street and across the street. So now, in order to bring it into conformity, there's only the CDD1 zone that's adjacent to it, and that would make sense. And that the proposal that would be a separate application, it's on the agenda tonight if the board approves the zone change, is that proposal would be fully compliant with the new zone. So it only makes sense for it to go to a commercial zone because otherwise you have a non-conforming building. It makes it difficult to sell. It makes it difficult if you wanted to expand additional office space or additional residential space. You're stuck in the R10 zone right now. You're not allowed to do that. So, so those are the two reasons. Number one is just to bring the property into conformance with the actual building and the use that's been going on there since 1988, 1989. And secondly, which I can address briefly if the board's interested about what the next application is or why we're bringing it at this time, is that the applicant would like to legalize a basement apartment. And the only way to do that would be to have this zone change. Otherwise, that basement apartment would not be legalized because that would be expanding an existing nonconformity. So that's the history of the property. The building's fully rented. It's a mix of, as Mr. Sulcas's memo had said, it's a mix of, there's residential on top, there is office on the first floor. And pending your questions, that's really our position for the zone change. It is in compliance with the Plan of Conservation and Development. Back in 1988, when it was changed to an RO, the approval letter actually stated, it was noted that the Plan of Conservation and Development recognized Clark Street and West Clark Street as collector streets. So this property is immediately adjacent to the CDD1 zone. And that's why we're asking for it to be changed to CDD1. Thank
Great,
you.
thank you. David, would you like to give us your overview of whether it's additional history or just overview of the application?
Give you the overview. Again, this 140 Clark Street is a multiple application. So this is my report has two different sections. So I'll just read the first section. The proposed zone change. A proposed zone change from R10 to CDD1 is being pursued to make the pre-existing building use more conforming with the zoning and allow the applicant to pursue the special permit to legalize the existing basement dwelling unit.
Okay, this is a public hearing, but if any member of the board would like to ask any questions, we can do that before we open the public hearing. Seeing none, this is a public hearing. If anybody from the public would like to speak, either do the wave or you can wave. You can raise your hand electronically as well. David, you could be the gatekeeper of anyone who would like to speak.
Okay, I am scanning the crowd, which is made up of the board, Kevin Crusaden, and one other person, two other people. Neither of them are raising their hands. So going once, going twice. No one is raising their hand to speak.
Okay, great. Is there any member of the board who feels like we should? Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
I just a little curious. I mean, if we change the zone to be compliant, then the next step would to ask for a special permit. I'm just not understand special permit. I thought it was going to be compliant with, so what is it that has to be special?
Yeah, so that is just the way changes in a property are addressed in the CDD1 zone is by special permit. It's just part of our procedure. David, you could maybe speak to that as well.
So most uses in the CDD zones are by special permit. So if the zone is changed, then the applicant is seeking to legalize a unit that's in the basement. And to do that, that would be by special permit, because you could have mixed use, but it's not by just plain site plan review, it's by special permit. So that's why.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we open it up? Again, last call to the public.
I just wanted to say one thing. This doesn't include any additional construction. You're converting a basement. There's nothing being added, no square footage being added, anything like that. Just a basic conversion, correct?
Mr. Mortimer, that is correct. There's there's no site plan changes. There's no addition. There's no additional construction or anything like that.
And if I remember correctly, there's more than enough parking already. Although somebody did raise concern about parking on the street because of the configuration of the Y there near the Y on the street, the split. So, but there is more than enough parking on the actual property, correct?
That's correct. There's 15 spaces, and if the zone is changed, it's 12.5 spaces are required for all of those uses. So yes, there are a couple extra parking spaces.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I would then, if without objection, we'll close the public hearing. We'll consider that closed. Yeah, it seems to me that it was odd that it was built as a compliant project in '88, and then by a zone line adjustment, it was made non-conforming. I'm not sure why that actually happened, and I guess we'll probably never know why that happened. But it seems to me a logical progression to include that in the CDD1. I mean, that's where it essentially existed since '89. Question for you though, David. If we approve this, we would have to have a date by which it is the zone is changed. Is that accurate?
Yes, I believe I put it on the motion. Is it not there?
Yeah, it's effective June 30th.
June 30, Jim. It's on.
Okay. So June 30. Do we need to wait till June 30 to hear this second application? I mean, it's not, as of tonight, the zone, even if we voted in, the zone has not been changed yet.
So typically, when the board makes any decisions, the decisions are appealable for the first 15 days. So I believe the 30th is basically, 15 days away, 16 days away. What we would do in this particular case is we wouldn't take an application for the work in the basement because they're going to need permits. And they're going to need them, even though they've done some work, they're going to need to get permits. And we just wouldn't give them, we wouldn't give them those permits until after the regulation is in effect. The change in zone is in effect.
But then, so again, my question goes back to, should we even hear item 2 until after June 30th?
I don't think it hurts to hear it tonight.
What about voting on it tonight?
I don't think it hurts to vote on it tonight because your intent is clear. I mean, if you have voted to change the zone, then you voted to change the zone. It just doesn't become effective until the 30th. And I don't see you having a problem. If you want to do the special permit tonight, you can do that. We just wouldn't issue them a zoning permit for the work until after June 30th.
Okay. Mr. Griffith, if you're here, do you concur with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right, so 2 people agree, that's good enough for me. So the public hearing is closed. Is there any other question or comment from members of the board? Seeing none, I'd hear a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
I move to approve as presented the petition of Kevin Kersaden Esquire for a change of zone from R10 residential to CDD1 on map 53, block 331, parcel 11, of which Wallbanger Enterprises LLC is the owner. The effective date to be June 30, 2021.
thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
That was Mr. Cater. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Meg, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Ms. Austin,
With the motion.
Mr. Castagnoli,
yes,
Mr. Cater,
yes,
Mr. Collegian,
I'm with the motion.
Ms. Kearney,
with the motion,
Mr. Moore,
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer,
With the motion.
Mr. Zaharides,
With the motion.
and Chairman Quish.
I'm with the motion.
Thank you.
So that gives us 9, is that correct?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Correct.
Which is greater than 7.
That is greater than 7.
Okay, motion passes. We have item number 2, 140 Clark Street, Zone R10, petition of Kevin Crusading Esquire for a special permit with site plan review to add an efficiency apartment on map 53, block 331, parcel 11, of which Wallbanger Enterprises LLC is the owner. The applicant has the mic.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, Kevin Crusading, 3 Lafayette Street. I'm representing Wallbanger Enterprises. Dr. Amel is on the call, the member of Wallbanger Enterprises. I'll just give you the history of what happened. When Dr. Amel purchased the property, there was a unit in the basement that had not wasn't occupied, but the unit existed. Part of the basement storage, which is used by Dr. Armel for his office and also Dr. Ferrantino for his office. And then the other part of a basement is right now, as Mr. Sulkus pointed out, is an existing dwelling unit. What happened is about 9 or 10 months ago, the fire department, when they do their routine inspections, came to the building and inspected the building, and they said, "Hey, you got this apartment here. We don't have it on our records. Let's check into it." Dr. Amel was surprised it wasn't an approved apartment. The Fire Marshal Tony Fino had asked him to make some changes because somebody was living in the unit. Dr. Amel made the changes immediately, and that prompted him to start the process to make it a legal unit, which led to the zone change and now to this site plan and special permit application in order to legalize the apartment that's currently in the basement. And so if it's approved, we do have all the required parking. There's really not too much to say about it. It meets all of the regulations. The apartment would be fully compliant with the CDD1 zone once the CDD1 zone becomes effective following your approval. I don't know if the members of the board have any questions, but that's the situation, and that's why we're asking for this special permit application.
Okay, any further comment, David? Before I open it to the board?
I have no other comment. I mean, his summary was, on the nose.
Okay. Anybody from the board like to ask any questions or make any comments?
So basically, this is a functioning apartment as it is. Are there still going to be permits needed to be pulled, or?
That's a great question. The first answer is yes. And the life safety issues were taken care of, that he was asked to take care of by Tony Fino, were taken care of relatively immediately by Dr. Armel. Due to COVID, the governor's executive orders, there's an eviction moratorium. So there was somebody living there. That person still resides there. I think that eviction moratorium expires at the end of this month. But yes, Mr. Mortimer, there's a secondary application. There's the zoning approval, and then there would be the building permit and the fire code, and some issues. The fire department approved this with some conditions and say that the building may need to be sprinklered, but. So that would be another step in this process. If we have zoning approval, Dr. Armel has to get that squared away. Correct.
Okay, I see.
So just to clarify, that would then mean that or just to clarify that, the building department then takes over with the fire department to make sure that once the zoning compliance is in place, that the building and life safety issues will be taken care of.
Correct. And if they're not, he won't get a building permit for that unit and he would have to remove that unit.
Okay. Very good. Again, we have, this is a public hearing. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak?
We'll scan the crowd. I see no hands being raised, either electronically or visually. Going once, going twice. It appears no one would like to speak, Jim.
Okay, so without objection, we'll close the public hearing. Again, are there any further questions or comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, I'd hear a motion.
I'll do a motion.
Thank you, Jim.
I move to approve as presented the petition Kevin Kersadian Esquire for a special permit with site plan review to add an efficiency apartment on map 53, block 331, parcel 11, of which Wallbanger Enterprises LLC is the owner.
Do we need an effective date on this? No, it's just going to follow.
Right.
Okay, do we have a motion and do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Castagnoli. Motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Well, I'd just like to say that it's, it's a good thing that, that we're doing, and that getting more compliance is getting rid of a nonconformity is a good thing, and wish him well. Meg, if you would please call the roll.
Okay, Ms. Austin,
With the motion.
Mr. Cassignoli,
Yes.
Mr. Cater,
With the motion,
Mr. Collegian,
I'm with the motion.
I'm sorry, Ms. Kearney,
With the motion,
Mr. Moore,
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer,
With the motion.
Mr. Zaharides,
With the motion.
and Chairman Quish.
I'm in favor.
Thank you.
All right, motion passes. Good luck.
Thank you.
No old business or liaison reports. Subcommittee reports. We did have a subcommittee meeting of the POCD and the open space.
Conservation Commission.
I'm sorry, the Conservation Commission had a presence and participated. I personally was unavailable that night, so I'll have to resort to the minutes and to the recording.
Ask me.
And we do have a regulations subcommittee meeting and a POCD scheduled for next Wednesday. Is that accurate, David?
Well, it will be now if that's what you'd like.
Well, we did have a plan to do that, so let's continue it.
Okay.
And we'll fill out that agenda as the week progresses.
Okay.
We have approval of the minutes. We have a motion,
I'll move to
Motion.
approve.
second.
Second.
Without objection, minutes are approved. Chair's report. The only thing I have is the General Assembly has passed new regulations with regards to city zoning, and the authorization of all the towns and municipalities to have their independent zoning commissions has been changed and altered, and it primarily to promote more affordable housing. And it's not any, there's quite a lot to it, and we will get breakdown from the Regional Planning Association as well as city attorney, and maybe we'll bring in our elected representatives to talk about what they felt was important about passing it. But so that's new, and it's there's some significant changes in our world.
Jim, can we go online and see that? Whatever bill number it was?
I Googled it and found actually, I think it's Robinson and Cole, law firm in Hartford, did a pretty good summary. But you can find the whole, every word of it online too.
Okay.
So like, I think that's probably a good thing to check out individually. Staff report, David.
So under the governor's executive orders, our ability to have these types of meetings, these Zoom meetings, I believe is going to expire at the end of the month. So unless the legislature that's meeting over the next couple of days decides to change something, you should plan on returning to City Hall for the first meeting next month.
Well, that is a change.
Yeah, so I'll obviously let you all know, just in case I miss something, but my understanding is that this month is it, and next month we'd be back at City Hall. They had some legislation proposed that would give the towns the ability to choose to what degree that means. Different boards could do it. But that legislation, it's my understanding, didn't pass. But there's a possibility that it may resurface in the next couple of days at the special session.
Interesting. Anybody have thoughts on that? What are your gut feelings?
Honestly, I'm ready to return in person.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there are going to be distancing requirements or
Mm.
for what it's worth to anyone. I think David and I are both fully vaccinated, so if you sit
I mean,
next
I
to
meant-
us, you're okay.
I'm sure that each individual town will have some input on that. The local health departments are going to have input on how many people in a room, and
Mhm.
Yeah,
I don't know. I would
our
hope so.
setup doesn't really, lend itself to spacing people out, but I guess we'll find
Yeah.
out when we set up the room.
Good point.
Hmm.
It was funny because I really was not a fan of the Zoom meetings at first. I was nervous and uncomfortable, and now I'm kind of used to it. It's,
Yeah,
you don't have to have shoes on.
I don't disagree. However, I do feel, and again, I do feel sometimes the public isn't heard as much as
Yeah.
it might be in person. That's where I feel in person. And again, I get that. I mean, I'm fully vaccinated, and and everybody has a choice on that. But I do feel sometimes we lose a little bit of the public's ability to talk.
Yeah,
That's my
that's a good point, I think.
If it makes any difference to anyone, it's because I'm running these meetings, I've observed it's the exact opposite. We have had more public participation and more people showing up at these Zoom meetings than we ever have at 110 River Street.
I understand that, but at the same time, I think there's some of them also too, it's my own personal opinion, but presentations aren't as smooth as it is when you're in person. Yeah, and I get that, but and people, there's too much it's a little bit looser on Zoom than sometimes when it's formal in person. I believe in in-person meetings. That's how we were, and I'm ready. I'm anxious to go back to that.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward too. I do think it would be nice to have some kind of a hybrid so that if, there's certain members of the public that are not vaccinated or they're close with, parents or grandparents that didn't get vaccinated and they want to be a little bit more protective, that they could Zoom, or not necessarily the commission, but members of the public that want to speak, but somehow either for their own lack of mobility or their own concerns can still weigh in. I mean, that would be kind of a nice thing. And I don't know.
Yeah, it is so much
Basic.
more convenient to just turn on your computer, so.
I kind of like it.
I get that. And I don't disagree with that, but I do at times feel this has become kind of a crutch.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
I think you feel the crowd and you feel
you do.
something more, a little more connection to whether it's the application or the public's input. You can see it, you can feel the passion and
Yeah,
we've lost that a little bit. I agree, Nancy, I do.
Let's face it, we are all elected officials. And this has distanced us from our constituents, whether, and because it's like you can kind of hide. Like, I don't turn my camera on only because my internet sometimes I'll get kicked out of the meeting. So that's why my camera's not on. But I do feel, we represent the people of Milford. And when we're there and it's being filmed and all of that, and that's part of serving the public.
Mhm.
That's my thoughts.
Good
And
point. I think so.
take it for what it is.
That's a good
I'm not-
point. Most of my term has been on Zoom, so I really don't. have much-
That's your only
And
experience. right?
again,
So this
And
is
again,
normal to me.
yeah, and again, this is super easy, and it's like, and agreed, like, you don't have to put shoes on, and all that, and I totally get that. I just feel to some degree you lose a little bit of that inner person, even amongst us, even amongst us when we're sitting there, you're together, you're able to, so.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah, well,
If I could make one suggestion, just logistically, I think Nancy does have a point, and you can read the room and all that good stuff. And I agree with David, though, that there has been substantial participation in these meetings. But as far as the subcommittee meetings, which are really just working groups, I mean, I think this is pretty, when it's lousy weather or, it seems like it might be a tool in the toolkit, to quote Mr. Jim Quish,
Yeah.
to maybe keep these
Right.
around for subcommittees.
now,
That's
I don't
not a
know,
bad idea, actually.
do we have the actual authority without the governor's?
I don't think we know yet until the
No,
special session.
no, the answer is you don't have the authority. And once the executive order expires, unless the legislature does something, you're back in person. You don't have the authority to have Zoom meetings.
Is that
Yeah,
something
I
the
think
city
that-
could take up?
hopefully they'll consider the fact that I think the whole world realized that it can function in a remote universe, right? So it would be nice if we have a hybrid, so that if somebody is unable to attend a meeting in person, but could attend on Zoom, and we have those big screens, at the town hall, that if somebody would want to participate, but is traveling for business or pleasure, whatever, and can still participate in the meeting, that would be, I think, a better service to the constituents, as Nancy, spoke about. That's who we work for. So anyway, I think I'll reach out to my representatives and senators and voice an opinion. Give my 2 cents.
What we can do, and but I do think also too, we have to also discuss with the other boards, and kind of, this is my feeling, and you can, agree to disagree, and I'm totally cool with that, but like, what are the Board of Aldermen doing? What is Board of Ed doing? What's, and that's because I think there has to be a little bit of uniformity. Because we do all work for the city of Milford. So if.
Yeah, and there's also 24 appointed boards, whether it's
Right.
a pension board or a school facilities
Oh, God,
committee
police
or.
commission,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you name it.
And
So
so that's something we should.
I
definitely
think we
talk
need
to
a
our
little
local-
direction Obviously, it's gonna go, we can't do anything until the executive order or whatever, from that level. But after that point, if it does expire, I think there has to be some discussion, especially amongst committee chairs, that what's the consensus and what is, and again, it's what people are comfortable with. I'm not saying, everybody's gonna be 100%, but I don't think we're ever gonna get 100% one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, very good discussion.
That's my thought.
Thank you. Chair's report, staff report, motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, thank you, everybody.
All right, take care,
Have a
everyone.
good night,
Good
guys.
night, everyone.
There now.
Have a good night.